Imperialism, redcoats, and lots of continents. That's right, it's time for top 10 messed up things that happened in the 1700s. Number 10, America the Beautiful. We'll put another waving flag behind me just so I can salute to the American flag. God bless America. Okay, all jokes about America and freedom aside, the Revolutionary War for Independence and its outcome might be the most important event of the 1700s. Even top 10 of all time, honestly. As a Canadian, we learned a fast-track version of that. So here's my comedic take of the fast-track version of my grade 11 classroom that my teacher taught me. Wasn't a big fan of him, to be honest. American colonists had it up to here, dude. No taxation without representation. And when the colonists asked for a little, they got a lot. And by that, I mean a lot of men in redcoats coming to occupy Boston. The colonists were really mad at the British and they got back at them the only way they knew how, by dumping tea into Boston Harbor, which is probably the worst way you can make someone from Britain mad. I'm sorry guys, you like tea, I don't know. Wise and wealthy men from across the colonies had a meeting and decided enough was enough, dude. Made George Washington commander-in-chief and started arming the militia. From Minutemen to crossing the Potomac, the odds were stacked against them, but in the end, they were victorious. And with that, the greatest nation on earth was born. You go ahead, ask them, they'll tell you. And it never had any problems ever again, especially with freedom. And regarding a large number of their population's rights, they never had any. What? No, they never had any issues after that whatsoever. Number 9, Viva La France. As brave and gallantly as the American colonists fought off the British, they probably could not have done it without European influence from other empires. Spanish, the Netherlands, Prussia, and most notably France. Which is really messed up because when you think about it, they're an imperial monarchy helping citizens overthrow an imperial monarchy, which their own people were suffering from similar issues and they wouldn't want them doing that. So it's kind of weird, I don't know. I'm sure that this won't come back to bite France in the derriere. Well, it did. Things were getting a little crazy in France, the kind of crazy that makes people want to go chop kings up like vegetables in soup. King Louis XVI was losing support by the day, and eventually got him and his cake-eating wife on the chopping block. Monarchies were out. Liberty, equality, and fraternity were in. Number 8. The Illuminati. Nothing is true, everything is permitted, once said by a wise man in red and white robes. If you've ever played the Assassin's Creed series, especially the older ones, the better ones really, you know how important secret societies play a role in the plot of games, or in the plot of those games actually. However, something you may not know is that the Illuminati got their start in the 1700s. What may have started out as a club, and innocent enough, today has evolved into, well, I'm not so sure actually. We really do not know that much about the Illuminati, or the Freemasons, or whatever the heck they're called. Basically, they're just a secret club of rich and powerful men who may or may not be up to no good, which they probably are if they're secret, I don't know. They could also be lizard people, but I mean, come on, it's not like all media is controlled by lizard people who want you to see what they want you to see. That's crazy. Hey Chris, turn on my heat lamp, it's kind of chilly in here, dude. Number 7, War of the First Coalition. Feeling a lot better after that heat lamp, thanks Chris. Speaking of heat, France after their revolution was about to catch some. While the revolution was happening, other European nations were sweating, as the idea of freedom and revolution were spreading at an alarming rate. So what happens next? A European war! There's a lot of those in history. A three-pronged attack was being planned to punch a hole into the coalition, which was just a bunch of countries that wanted to fight France. At the bottom of that prong was a man named Napoleon. His attack was to be more of a diversion really, but it ended up being more like the spotlight. Napoleon very quickly and unexpectedly started kicking major ass, and returned to France a hero. It's pretty similar to when you're playing Search and Destroy in Call of Duty, and somehow you pull a 1v6 clutch out of nowhere. Even the homies were doubting you. Napoleon would later go on to be the tyrannical dictator of Europe. One of many. Number 6, the 7 Years' War. You don't hear too much about this bad boy, but it's what sets the stage for the American Revolutionary War, and might have been the First World War, at least according to portly British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. British colonists wanted to expand, and there were some French forts in the way, so with combined forces of colonists and Indian tribes, everyone went to war. How fun, right? Good old-fashioned war. However, this war was already kind of an extension of the conflict that was unfolding in Europe. I know, another war in Europe, who would have thought? Not me, not us. But there were conflicts popping up between colonies and empires all over the globe. related to the original war, which was between Austria and Britain. It's really confusing, a lot of dudes. Just something you don't hear about much. Historians are mostly talking about the North American conflict when referring to the 7 Years' War. Britain was victorious and a lot of Indians unfortunately perished in the conflict. Arguably, that was the biggest loss. I spoke to the chief, he sent back a smoke signal, and he said that's not it. Number 5, Napoleon treasure hunter. Yep, Napoleon again, but this is just a weird fact that honestly is too strange not to mention. Napoleon, besides being a corrupt tyrannical ogre, actually kinda did some good. I ain't condoning his warmongering, but the scientific community got a huge boost because of him. 1798, Napoleon went on down to Egypt to stop some British from being British, as you do. But with him was a large group of scholars, sent to study the ruins and the history of ancient Egypt. Well, what did they find? Sand. A lot of sand. They also found the Rosetta Stone, a stone tablet depicting writing, written in the same copied language in different ancient languages. Why is this so important? Well, it's helped historians decipher ancient Egypt, and if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be able to come out here and make jokes about mummies or pyramids. Or Star Wars. And that means no Palpatine. Blah, yes. That's terrible. You guys gotta have your Palpatine. Number 4, a trip to Canada. Oh, Canada, our home and native land. So when the American Revolution War was on, there were still some folks who were sympathetic to His Royal Majesty. It makes sense. They didn't want to get unalived for not liking the king. Believing in such at the time in certain areas could be bad for your health. So it was time to de-ass the area. So they did, and they went to British North America, which was Canada. This would not be the last time people needed to escape to the land of maple syrup, igloos, and polar bears. Number 3, the raw deal. The Indian tribes of the Americas just got the wrong end of the stick. They were swindled, bamboozled, and just treated horribly. The French were somewhat nicer than the other Europeans, but not enough to avoid getting called into HR. They would all get called into HR for their behavior. From being pitted against each other in the French-Indian War to manifest destiny, and even today. Some argued that it was impossible to own land, but instead simply live off the land and enjoy its fruits from its labor and all that good stuff that it provides. Europeans responded with one-sided treaties and volleys of musket fire. So nice. In hindsight, it wasn't Europe's finest moment, but then again, what is though? You know what I mean? I don't know. They've done some good stuff, I guess. Number 2, penal colonies. This one is just crazy to me, but basically, Britain needed a place to dump their prisoners. America was one of the first penal colonies, but after tea started getting dumped into harbors, it was time for a new location. Right, we need a place that's dry, full of terrible, awful monsters. Can you take a guess where we're gonna put them? Yeah, that's right, down under, that's right. Thousands of convicts made their way to new lands, since British prisons were overcrowded. Now, I've never been to Australia, but I'm not sure how you guys are so calm with all those weird creatures around. I ain't a big fan of spiders. I can't imagine the prisoners who were working outside were either. Just a bad time. Number 1, YouTube's least favorite S word. I mean, it's kind of what made all these economies go boom. Or what's kind of what made these empires work. When most people think of YouTube's least favorite S word, they think of cotton plantations in the American South. At least that's what I think most people comes to mind. However, for the 1700s, the most profitable actually would have been the sugar plantations in the Caribbean or in South America. Imagine how much money companies would save if they didn't have to pay for their employees. Oh, and steal employees from foreign lands and, torment them and treat them like less than human. Just do awful, awful things. God. Honestly, not humanity's brightest moment. The Sugar Islands made those empires rich literally off the backs who had no choice. I didn't even get to ask the chief about that one. Right at the gate he said that was not it. And of course, don't take it from an internet comedian, take it from a better source. It's just a bad time all around. We can do better and we will do better. That's gonna wrap it up for me today, guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe here at Bumblebee. And if you too want to meet the chief, geez, I want to meet him too, then check out my socials linked down below. I've been your host, Big Chad, and stay sweet, my little honeybees. Look, I knew it! The big guy, he's a lizard, I knew it! British colonist. Hi, how are you?